So we're gonna. I guess this all started when we were talking about the orange base that you had just reviewed.
Yeah, in fact, I
And
still have the box because I didn't have time to ship it out over the weekend like I was going to. So sorry, I'm holding on to it. I didn't want to, but I still have it for a little while longer. But yes, I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't send you one. Because they just like cold emailed me and they're like, hey, we're releasing the Orange O base. Would you like one to review? And I said, yeah. And that was basically like it. Like I just said my address, and then this shows up in the mail. And they thankfully they gave me free reign on it. They just said like, do a review, and like they didn't, make any stipulations on anything that I said or whatever, which thank goodness for that. Like, because I wouldn't have said yes if they had told me that what I could or couldn't say. Is that, I mean, and I guess that's also worth bringing up in this conversation is just like the stipulations that come with getting free gear sometimes.
yeah,
Everything that I've gotten has just been like that. It's just like, here's our thing. Please make a video on it. And I go, okay. And sometimes you get to keep it, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you wish you didn't have to keep it, i.e. the Orange O base. Yeah. I want this thing gone so bad. This is the least fun I've ever had on a base. Oh my gosh.
I'm not surprised. Like, just looking at it, it seems like they put the most thought into the shape of the pick guard because it's the shape of the Ferrari test track.
And a seahorse, if you're high.
And a seahorse, yes. a pregnant seahorse.
A pregnant seahorse. Oh man.
Like, what? I don't understand why. Well, I guess I understand it. It's all marketing. They're trying to sell bases. But I don't understand this approach, and it's the approach that we see a lot with. I see it a lot in the tech scene where there's a review embargo. People get this item, they are given the opportunity to review it, and a lot of the time, especially on the written reviews, more so, you see it in the guitar space. You see bullet points that are, clearly provided by the manufacturer, like talk about these things regardless of like how accurate it is or not. I remember one of the articles on the O base was saying, oh, the Purple Heart fingerboard makes it for excellent balance sitting and standing. It's like, have you seen where the strap button is? Have you seen how unergonomic this is? What are you saying?
Well, yeah, and I absolutely like one of the first things I did is they gave me like the PDF of all of the marketing stuff for that base, and I saw that stuff and I was just like, I'm not so sure about that. And then as I played it, I'm like, I'm just gonna take the piss on this one because half of this stuff is just nonsense and the other half is just patently not true. It's just like, you can't make claims that just don't hold up. And like the balance thing is just like, no, absolutely not. Like anyone is just going to like put that on your lap and it immediately like falls to the floor. Like don't even talk about balance if it's not balanced at all. Like why even bring it up?
Let's see, in a zero gravity environment, it balances perfectly. in the metaverse, it is perfectly balanced, dude.
Maybe they pull an Apple on me and tell me I was holding it wrong.
But I don't understand why it's like there's this review embargo, as if there's like all this excitement built up for this base, and then all these reviews come out all at once, and it's just like you see it everywhere. You see articles linked, and it's like, oh, the Orange O base, and you just see like the same regurgitated points. And as you said, like, why even say it if it's not true? Because like you just have to play it, and you're like, this sucks. This is nothing like it was said here.
Well, and the other thing that I couldn't figure out either was like they kind of made a big deal about it, like, hey, when we first released this base, it was really popular, and it's so popular that we're bringing it back. And I was like, I kind of vaguely remember when it got released the last time, and I think it was kind of the same thing. Like I saw a couple reviews and I was just like, huh, that's weird that an amp company made a bass. Anyway, on to other things. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how long? Do you know how long they even made it for? It couldn't have been more than a year.
They made them. It was a 2015 model,
Yeah.
and they probably made a bunch of them. And I didn't. I'm not sure if they were continuing to produce them, or they just had a bunch that they're like, please buy these. They're popular.
Yeah, well, and in fact, I went on eBay and Reverb just to see if there were any around, and I couldn't find one. Like, they're just not around. And I thought, like, before I played it, I was like, okay, well, maybe either there are not very many of them, they're just rare, or people are just holding on to them because they like them, and it's got to be at least one of those things. So, and I have no idea what their production numbers on them are, but I just they're kind of a weirdly divisive bass is what I've found. Like, some people, like, I even went like on Talkbase to try and figure out, because I literally thought I was taking crazy pills when I played this thing, and I was like, this is like the worst bass ever. How come all of these reviews are so good on this thing, and how come so many people are like really interested in these? Like I just don't get it. And so yeah, I like dove into Talkbase, and like, you know, 3/4 of people were just like, I don't like the color, so I'm not even gonna bother. And the other quarter of people were like, that looks really interesting. That's so different. Good on Orange for being different. And it's like, different's not always useful or good. But I guess the whole reason why we decided to have this conversation is to talk about product placement in our videos. Well, and more like the guitar community at large, or the bass community. Because the guitar community has already had this conversation. There was a video going. Was it 2021 that video was published?
Yep.
And I'll have a link down in the description to that video, because it's definitely worth watching. A lot of different guys' opinions on this kind of a thing. But, you know, time the bass community had the same kind of conversation, because it's important to know the marketing tactics that you're being faced with, and we need to talk about the word influencers.
Yes.
So, influencers for most people is a dirty word. It's you always think of like the vapid Instagrammers, the people who make their life an advertisement. I'm a kind of the opinion that that we shouldn't look so harshly on influencers, and people that you probably like and enjoy are influencers to an extent, you and I, because what we do influences people's product decisions.
What makes an influencer? How do you define influencer? Because I think as soon as you create a piece of content about anything, regardless of if you were sent it or you're just excited that you got a new thing and you just want to show it to the internet, as soon as you make something and there is someone on the receiving end of that, you're influencing them, regardless of if you have one follower or 10 million followers. You've stepped into that world.
I think companies learned really early on in the internet that people highly value their friends' opinions on stuff. And so it kind of just seemed natural for social media to go that direction. You try and make connections with your friends just to, because of genuine connection. But if they ask you like, hey man, like I need a dog trainer or any random thing, like, do you know any good ones? Like that's being an influencer to an extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're reviewing essentially a service and providing a recommendation. So yeah, and in the age of the internet, especially like in the age of the pandemic where everyone was stuck inside for a long time, you don't have those external relationships like as so much where you're walking and seeing your friend and say, "Hey, do you know a good dog walker? Or where's a good place? Where's a good place to eat?" Something like that. And a lot of people picked up hobbies, be it bass, guitar, painting, whatever. But then you turn to the internet to see what do you do? Where do you start? How do you get the ball rolling for your own journey in that space?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's where I guess channels come in. You say, I'm looking to get a power drill, top 5 power drills that are, budget drills, and you make a decision. So that's kind of like, I guess, that's where we kind of sit, except for bases. However, one thing that I feel is kind of a strange conflict of interest that you don't see in other influencer spaces is the overlap between sponsorship and what you're presenting. If you look at, for example, social commentary channels or channels, car channels, anything, this videos is brought to you by, Raid Shadow Legend mobile game, Raycons, Better Health or Better Help or whatever that scam with the therapy was. I mean, they're being sponsored by things that don't necessarily directly deal with the content that they're making. So they're getting paid to promote something, but that isn't necessarily impacting their content in a way. They're just saying it to make money. And it's usually kind of clear, like, this is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. So level up your level character and get more gold if you sign up now. Like, he clearly doesn't play the game. He just wants to make the whatever money he's getting because some people make a living doing this.
Totally.
And I think it's interesting how you have other spaces where you have that sort of advertising, but then in the musical space, you have the people who are providing the sponsorships also providing products that they are then you're giving opinions on. And I
Yeah.
think that starts to you get a different sort of boundary than you do with those other channels.
Yeah, totally. The line between content and ad gets very, very fuzzy for this sort of relationship between us and base gear companies, because there's plenty of stuff. Well, like everything on the rack behind me here is stuff that I've just bought. But because it's in here, like that's kind of a form of product placement, even though I'm like, nobody's telling me that I should, or I'm getting paid to have this stuff in my background or whatever. It's just incidentally there. But like, how do you know?
Yeah. And also, you like those things, so therefore, it's now a part of your backdrop. You're displaying that you like it, and as someone you now have a following, people see that you like it. There's a connection there. So it it's interesting. In that video that you mentioned, they talk about the sponsored content little checkbox as creators that we have to check that whenever we're dealing with any form of sponsored content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of folks don't realize where the line is for sponsored content, and it's not where a lot of people think it is, where if you're receiving money or a free thing, that's of course sponsored content. But even if you're borrowing something, you're receiving something of value. Even if you give it back and you don't make a penny off of that, off that company, you're still receiving something of value, and that's sponsored content as well.
I think
The,
that's kind of the problem with that checkbox, is that it's not very descriptive. Like, because all it is literally one checkbox, and it says this video contains sponsored content, and it's like, to what extent?
Mhm.
Like, and at what point should you like ethically or morally check that box? But like, what does that even mean? Because all it really does is it just puts up the little thing in the corner that says paid promotion or something, contains paid promotion.
But that's interesting because even in the scenario that I talked about, where I'm receiving something and then I send it right back after I'm done with it, no money changes hands. I don't get to keep the instrument. That is still a sponsored content. I have to check that
Mhm.
box there. But people see paid promotion and they're like, "Hey, that guy, he's just he's just saying that because they're paying him." And you're right, YouTube does not really delineate that.
Mm-mm. And I'm not sure if they should be more on top of that or not. I'm not sure how I feel about that part of it, because I do think it's good that they have tools that will like let you know, like, hey, there is paid products and sponsorship in this video. But it's also hard to determine like what that is. Like in this video right now, like there's nothing sponsoring it right now, but like, what if a bass that I am borrowing happens to just show up incidentally in the background here? Yeah. Is does that make it sponsored stuff? Because you're borrowing that close space there.
Don't look. Secret. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And to answer your question, I think they should do more because this is some people's livelihoods. Some people make their living off of making paid videos where they're paid to both produce the content as well as maybe have an affiliate link or something like that. They're paid to make marketing material. And I mean, that's okay to make your living doing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's it's also strange to be like, I guess, put in the same bubble, and have that ambiguity in terms of, is this going to impact me or not? It's very vague in the verbiage, and when your livelihood is potentially on the line, like, you want specificity. You want to say, like, if something happens to my channel, I want to be able to say, hey, I didn't do this, or oh crap, I did do this.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, and it's, I don't know. I guess it's just the amount of ambiguity in all of it is really frustrating, because I think there's even a pretty big difference between like your video and my videos, because like just the nature of the content is a little bit different. Our relationships
Absolutely.
to the companies that we work with, even if we work with the same company, those relationships are going to be different. Like what, like I guess Close is a really good example, because they first approached you and then you told them that I was local, and I've since been doing a little bit more with them just because they're around. They're like, oh my gosh, we finally have like an actual bass player who can play our product and make it, sound good and everything. So that's great. But then your relationship is totally different with them because you're far away. You're just gonna review the bass, and they're having you send them both back, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
And then we may do a mod project after. We'll see where that goes. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, like clicking that one little button on your video, the checkbox, isn't going to tell you the nature of that relationship at all. And unless you explain it in detail in the video, which nobody wants you to do, because it just takes up valuable time to like, okay, like here's how this whole thing works. Like that just kind of bogs down the whole content, and like entertainment first for us is pretty important, right? So it's just such a tricky, needle to thread to be ethical but also still make your content engaging and good.
Yes. Yes.
What I will say is that I think where you and I are coming from in terms of like how we approach our channels is from like the same heart. Like we just really like bass.
Yes.
And like I've just always liked YouTube, and I just thought, wouldn't it be fun if I made videos? And like that was kind of it. Like that there's not really much else to it. And I think your start was kind of the same. It's just like, man, I've got a lot of basses. I bet people would like to see these.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. One other example about this particular marketing practice, and on a different scale, is Glary. If you remember, on the website, there's a whole area where essentially you can reach out to them and just basically they'll send you a guitar for free if you review it, and that's how they're trying to spread the word. However, we saw I didn't make a video on it, but earlier this year, Glary actually doxed someone because they sent a guitar, a series of guitars to review, but they didn't do any research on the channel. The channel was from the UK, but they sent them all to some guy in the US who was claiming to be from the channel, and then they just ghosted them. Not thinking that address could even be fake as well, and they could have just intercepted the package. They post the guy's address online and a picture of the house, and I'm like, for a couple like $100 guitars, you're doxing somebody, Glary? Is really?
Ooh, yeah.
But they dug that hole themselves. I mean, creating the atmosphere where, hey, reach out to us and we'll send you a guitar if you give us an honest review. But people want free stuff, so they're gonna say whatever you want in order to get that free thing, regardless of if it's $100 guitar or a $1,000 guitar. Like,
yeah, that kind of a program is questionable at best, because if the company is not willing to do their research to like decide, you know, who is getting their product, then they can only expect that to be abused. That is just a weird response to that, to go nuclear on the dude. Like,
Yeah.
well, that makes me feel bad for having said yes to him, but they were kind of a similar thing. It was just like, hey, we have this bass. If we just send it to you, will you make a video? And I even told him, like, I don't even like really do like reviews. Like, I actively try and downplay that aspect of it, because guys like you just do it so much better and so much more consistently than I do. So like, I just kind of feel like I'll leave it to the pros on this for the most part. So I was just like, can I make a different kind of video? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. And so I did a music video with it. Like, I didn't review it. It was just in that video, and they were happy with that, I guess. But
if they weren't, they'd go ahead and dox you right on their
oh
page.
yeah, I'd have people coming to my apartment door, been like, hey, heard you didn't like Glary.
Glary Mantooth is a saint. That's interesting though, because it's like they're essentially trying to solicit reviews, but there's no conscience to the like credibility of said review. They're just trying to go for volume to say, "Oh, I got this Glary. Oh, it plays just like that Fender I used to have back in '83." And I think that is probably on the pyramid of slimy things to do as a company. That's pretty up there, because like you're trying to spread you're trying to spread your brand's name without making the product essentially good. I know I've reviewed Glaries in the past, and that's when they were way cheaper at like $83 or something shipped. So you get a base. I'm like, you could get a couple pizzas or a base, and like for the price, like there's nothing else you can get for $83. So it's pretty good, but it's also $83. So like that was my approach. But now that they're like $150 and like
there's a whole conversation to be had there about like the budget market. It's just absurdly competitive. Like 15 years ago, it was just like there's Squire, and that was kind of it. And then
those
the
weird
last
brands, you know, like when you go to those like weird mom and pop music shops that have like there's like Dillian. You ever see like it? I don't know. I don't even know where they're made. Like they're like Gibson and Rickenbacker copies, but they're like so hush hush, like they just like exist, and they're just pieces of absolute horse shit. They are so bad. But it's kind of like the real book, you know, the hush hush real book before it was like okay to sell them. It's like that, but a base. It's like, we got this thing here. Don't tell anybody we have it, but you want to buy it?
Oh yeah, and all of that stuff was dubious as hell. Like you couldn't recommend it at all. It was like there was like the First Act stuff that you could get at Walmart or
First
whatever.
Act. Oh my god.
Oh man,
Mitchell.
I will. Oh yeah, or like Johnson. Johnson was another one.
Yep.
Yeah, there were a whole bunch, but they were also obscure. Like they just sort of existed somehow, and if you just like happened to find them on the used market, like you almost never saw them in stores. It seemed like I always saw them secondhand.
You never bought one of those instruments, but you always somehow they would come into your life and they would exist.
Yeah.
Like, hey, yeah, my buddy's friend, he brought it over one day. He just kind of left it there. He never came back for it, and like just been there.
But see, like Glary is the 2.0 of this. They're back with the same bullshit instruments, but with the internet with on their right arm is their weapon. They're weaponizing bullshit instruments.
Yes. We'll build an army.
Oh, maybe we should shift gears and talk about the bigger YouTube channels. Like I'm talking Andertons. Oh man.
Yeah. So essentially store channels where
Store
it's like
channels.
we're literally selling these instruments. Our job is to sell them to you. So let's just hire some people to be like, "Whoa, oh my God, these are amazing!" And like Mark King's brother, like he's a beast, but like, and I do enjoy some of their banter. I'll give them some of the banter, but then all of it is some of the other stuff is just like being fake impressed about something and just being like, here's all the things I can do on it, but it's like you're a ridiculous dude. Like it gets to a level where like the person playing the instrument is like way up here, and everyone else is like down here, and you're not gonna get up here just with that instrument, and so you're seeing all this crazy shit happen, and you're like, I'm gonna be able to do that too, and you get it, and you're like, this sucks.
I think it's easy to forget when you're watching those videos that they are not reviews. They might label them reviews. They are absolutely not reviews though. They are ads. And that's
Yes.
what I think of every time that I see one of those videos. Cause like I try and like, keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. Gotta stay on top of the trends, like whatever. So every time I click on an Andertons video, I'm just like, I'm clicking on an ad. I am actively choosing to watch an ad because that's what they are. Is they are fairly entertaining, well produced ads. Because if they are reviews, then they are the most toothless, unsubstantiative reviews on the internet. And I will say that to their faces because they do not care about giving you a good evaluation of a product, of a product's value, even a good representation of how it actually sounds. Their mission is to just make things look attractive enough for you to go to their website and order it and buy it.
And sound attractive enough because a lot of the larger channels, I mean, they're using multi-$1,000 amp rigs. There's post processing where you're adding EQ and maybe some I don't know what else they're adding to the tone, but I mean, there's a lot that goes on into producing those videos, both in like gear as well as like editing and effort that then starts to skew the representation of like what you're actually getting in terms of like sound, and then combine that with like zero actual like opinion outside of like you're saying, oh, here's the facts, oh my God, look what I can do, oh, but then like you're not giving anything of value. It's like just a little show off jam, and then you talk very basic specs, and you know then it goes nowhere.
Yeah, the one that like really like sent me over the edge because I've always tried to like think that it's easy to get distracted by like the pretty colors and the great players and everything, but just like, okay, I'm gonna click on this ad. The one that sent me though was they did a video that I wanted to do. They did Fender versus Ampeg, so like Fender Rumble versus the Ampeg Rocket Bass amps, and I was like, perfect. That is a question that I get all the time, actually, and I can't honestly answer it because I've never had them, right next to each other. And here they are. Like, let's watch this video and see what Andertons has to say about this great Fender versus Ampeg debate. And those amps sounded the same. They sounded almost exactly the same, and I couldn't believe like you're not giving me anything. This is nothing to go off of. It's just like the only thing that they could even say that was even like a little bit critical was like the Ampeg amp is slightly heavier and it's a little more expensive. And that was like as far as the criticism of anything went, because there was otherwise no difference between the two combos.
It speaks to, I guess, like how little they're offering, that it's like, there's no sonic difference between the two amps, and then you're not getting any like opinion. Like you may get some demos of like some of the features or something, but like outside of that, you're not getting anything of like of substance at the end. And it's just like a pretty little song and dance. I guess they're trying for entertainment, and again, I do admit I do enjoy some of the banter sometimes, but most of the time it's barely watchable.
Dude, I really it's kind of sad that the one dude is no longer doing those videos, because there should have been a whole like weird underground scene of YouTube poop. out of Anderton's videos. And if I had any extra time at all, you know that I'd be making Anderton's YouTube poop. Oh my God. If I just had like a month off of work, I would make so many Anderton's YouTube poop and it'd be hilarious. It's like the, what's her name? Cece, that's the replacement on there. Like, she's great. She's just not nearly as memeable as the old dude was.
Yeah, because they made so many just great noises. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tried my I can't do YouTube poop. Like, I can't make it. I don't have the skills to make quality, but I tried splicing it up, and I just removed the words. And they would just be like, ah, oh, and then now, and then
divided it.
Yeah.
Post the video. Like, what I wanted to do was just like every Anderton's video ever, and then they changed the host, and I'm like, well, now that doesn't work. So maybe it'll be every old Anderton's video ever. It'll be just the two of them just making just all those weird British noises that they do. Too right.
Another similarity that I see in other YouTube review channels outside of music and the music one is the tech tubers. They are another sect of YouTubers where they are getting sponsored by perhaps the company who they're reviewing one of these products, be it a graphics card, be it a motherboard, be it whatever component. But the big difference between the tech stuff and the music stuff is this tech stuff is always going to perform how it's going to perform. That graphics card is going to perform like that graphics card is going to perform. There's going to be a slight variance due to the silicon quality or whatever, and like whatever clocks it's at or the cooling, but overall, like, that graphics card is going to perform like every other graphics card of that model. It's going to be the same, and like there's no room for fluff. Like, I guess there's maybe a little room, but you can't be like, oh, I got 1,000 FPS, because everyone else with the card, there's a million reviews, everyone else is going to get 350 because that's what the card is capable of or whatever. Like, the capabilities of that component are pretty set in stone. Like, you can't futz with that.
It has a number. It has an objective number that you can say, it does X this well. And I know where you're going with this. Bass guitars don't have that.
No. What does it sound like? Well, it depends on what you're plugged into. Depends on how you play. What style of playing? What kind of music are you playing? How do you have it set up? There's a million variables there.
Well, and all of those variables are completely subjective too, because, well, I mean, context matters so much to, whether something sounds good or doesn't. But yeah, there are very few like numerical values where you can say like, this bass is, an 8 out of 10 in whatever quality. Like, I suppose you can do that, but that's all going to be very subjective to you, the reviewer. Whereas if you're reviewing a graphics card, well, we have literal standardized tests, which are going to be pretty much the same for everybody else who also gets and reviews this card.
Exactly.
So it kind of reminds me of like, I've been watching a lot of Dunkey lately, just
nice
because Dunkey's great. But he has a video on reviewers, and he kind of points out that like reviews are only as good as the like consistency of the reviewer. Right. So like if you have a big company that, always has different people coming in and out to give you like reviews, and like they have a score at the end, like that is not very useful because there's so much subjectivity in something. Well, like it's always video games for Dunkey, but for us, it's the same too. So like the consistency of your reviews over time is the only, well, it's basically the most valuable part of you, the reviewer. So like for your channel, like your reviews are absurdly consistent. You're going through a lot of the same playing riffs, and you're playing through the exact same gear and settings as much as possible. And so like the way that that your reviews are set up, I think, are some of the most unbiased on the internet, I think, because they are just so, like, they're purposefully done at a very basic level, and they're done the same as much as possible, and they're always done by you, nobody else.
This is thank you. And yeah, I guess consistency was really the goal for me for that exact purpose, was because like if I'm going to be delivering an opinion on something, I also want to be like have some sort of level playing field. Because like if my goal is to then make every instrument sound as good as it can, that's going to be different for every instrument. And like, one may like, need, different EQ settings, just the gain here, there, and then like it gets to a point where like, what am I reviewing? Because now like, one amp, well, I mean, one bass will, have different EQ settings, and then this one will be louder, and then it has the onboard EQ. So, but why introduce all those variables for the sake of trying to make something like sound good? Because why would I want to make it sound better than it normally sounds? You know what I'm saying? I guess normal is also a pretty subjective because that depends on your amp rig, but like most people are going to be playing through their amp rig. It's going to be the same. So
Well,
by
what you're getting at here is like, what's your motivation in making a review?
yeah,
Because what you're trying to do is just like, well, here it is. You're just trying to present it in its rawest state. You're not trying to make it better or worse than it actually is. There's that level of integrity to the kind of review that you do. Compared to other kinds of reviews, it's like where you actively are trying to, show the instrument off in its best way possible, and there's merit to that as well. It's just a different kind of review and not nearly as objective. I mean, you're to a point where you're using the same strings on every bass, which is that is commitment, because strings are not cheap, especially for how many basses you go through.
It's string week ramen. Ramen for everybody. No. But I think it's important for I guess what I'm doing is just to have that consistency, because when it comes to those high powered amps with crazy tone shaping and EQs and stuff, that's going to be great for a lot of people. But for the majority of hobbyists, and hobbyist is the key word, because like I'm only a professional in the sense that I am professionally making bass videos on YouTube. I play the occasional gig, but like I'm talking maybe a handful of gigs a year. Like I have a day job. Like I don't rely on music for anything other than enjoyment.
Hmm.
So like I am a hobbyist, and some people say I don't trust anything unless it's from a touring musician who plays a thousand shows a year or whatever. Those guys are getting sponsors too, and companies are saying, "Hey, you're out there. I'm going to give you this instrument. Well, if you like it, cool." And people like free stuff, so I mean, especially if it's nice free stuff.
Oh, getting onto another point then, and this is just like another tally in why Lobster's bass reviews are the best on the internet. Is you don't accept free gear, right?
True, this is true. I don't accept free bases, so bases are easy to return because I get the bass. It comes in a box. I play the bass. I put the strings on the bass. I play the bass, and I just leave the strings on there. I don't give a shit. Then I just send it back, and it is what it is. With pickups, I accept free pickups because once I get the pickup, I am now soldering it. They can't resell or reuse those pickups at all. It's like
Right.
it's a loss. So either it's going to go in a trash bin over there, or I might put it in a cool project over here. So for pickup demos, preamp demos, things like that, I accept free gear, but it's always important to disclose that, hey, I got this for free for testing purposes. But I also think it's important that because those things are being presented in the same platform, you're able to just hear the difference. It's not like I'm giving especially for pickups, I can like something, but it's not like I'm giving it a value. You know what I'm saying? Like this pickup has, 8 more kilo grundles than this other pickup. Like, I'm not doing any sort of objective measurement to compare the pickups. I'm like, I'm going to install this in the base. Let's see what it sounds like. Here's an A to B. You make your decision whether or not you like it or not. I think it might sound better, or hey, I think this is a little bit of a lateral move, or oh, I think I like the stock pickup better. But you
Hmm.
decide for yourself. That's what it's about. But yeah, I don't accept any like free instruments. But yeah, pickups, electronics, gimme.
Yeah, well, in the nature of that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's nice because I also, when I'm selling an instrument, I'm not trying to necessarily make money on it, because that's a whole other thing where if I'm reviewing an instrument and then I try to sell it for profit, I'm incentivized to give it a good review potentially, because no one is potentially going to buy a bass that, actually people do buy the basses I shit on all the time. It's really funny.
I actually picked up one of the basses you shit on,
Which one?
the Yamaha BB735.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I really like it, and I remember watching your review like before I bought it, and I was just like,
I gave it an average review. I didn't poo poo it. I didn't have a good experience with the B string, and people were like, "You should have flipped the saddle," and I'm like, "I'll revisit it. We'll see where it is."
No, I legitimately like that bass, but I remember like watching your review. Like I watched it a couple of times too, because I was just like, on paper, it just seems like exactly what I want. And then I bought it anyway, and I ended up really, really liking it. So I'm glad I just went with my gut there.
Yeah, man.
Well, and I guess that's the part of the review that like nobody can do that for you.
Yeah,
You've got to develop your own like personal taste for stuff, and the only way to do that is just to play anything and everything you can get your hands on. Like as a new player, yeah, you're absolutely gonna have to like take other people's opinions and just take those for what it's worth. Because like if you're a brand new player and people are like, oh, well, just go and try a bunch of stuff and see what feels good. Like you don't know what feels good.
well, it feels good.
Like
I think I like this Guitar Center Squire P bass with the action a foot above the fretboard. It just feels
yeah,
good to me.
yeah.
Does
You
it,
don't
though?
you don't have a frame of reference to know what's good or bad. So like you do just have to like spend the time like years to get to a point where you develop your own preferences. I don't think people talk about that enough in the review sphere. Like your opinion ultimately matters a whole lot more than the reviewer, but you do have to like put in quite a lot of time to get to a point where you can be objective about it and be informed about it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And so I'm going to be making either a video or a series of videos on how to be a bass tuber. And one of the things that like I really am always going to push home, and I'm going to do it here, I'm going to do it in that video a lot, is don't sacrifice your integrity, especially because it's easy to see dollar signs in the short term or be like, oh, I'm going to be able to get this free base, like, oh, I got this $500 base, and then you just realize like, man, my integrity in regards to like my channel and being able to provide some sort of like objective opinion is completely gone for $500, and you can't recover that. You can't. You've then become a different type of channel. You've moved from reviews to ads. So I guess my advice is just like, don't sacrifice your integrity. Like if you're into something, and like if a company wants to work with you and you're into it, like cool, like that's awesome, and like work with them. Like if they're supporting artists and if they're making cool stuff that you dig, that's awesome, man. But like, and it's okay to form relationships, but it's easy in the short term the to see that, hey, I have the opportunity to get this or get that, and like just the short term gain, but not realize the long term loss that you will encounter in the process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to become a bass tuber for the sole purpose of getting gear, this is a lot of work to do that. Like a
Yeah.
stupid amount of work to be getting free gear for it. Like, and it takes so long get to a point where people actually like will respond to your emails even like.
And it's expensive because
So
like
expensive.
um, outside of Glary, who will literally send a base to anybody as long as they make like a video from their like Nokia camera phone from 2007. Um, most companies want like some sort of high quality production if they're gonna send you something, especially if it's like someone that's not well established. They want to know that you're able to produce high quality audio and high quality video, whether that's like processed or whether that's just like as unprocessed. Like I direct out for my amp, but people want or companies want high quality content and people want high quality content. And in order to make high quality content, you have to buy stuff, and stuff is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Camera, lights, microphone. I mean, some people use their camera phone, but still, camera phones are expensive if you want to get a good enough camera phone that doesn't look like crap. I mean, there's a lot to consider. Software. There's a lot of free software out there, but knowing which free software to use, learning that software to edit the audio, the video.
There's a huge number of discrete skills that all go into just making a YouTube channel, and you have to leverage all of them to a very competent degree. To otherwise, you're just going to get lost in the sea of other people who are just doing it better than you.
Yeah. If you're starting out, or if you're trying to grow your channel, like don't sacrifice the integrity, because that's like all you're gonna have for a long time until you can build it up. So
You got to have integrity until you can sell out / cash out.
this video is brought to you by Raycon.
Oh my gosh. Okay, my favorite thing about Raycon is that they don't give their products to actual audio files. It's always like people who have nothing to do with music at all. In fact, I think Raycons have been on Donkey's channel before, which is kind of funny because I actually applied for a job a long time ago to work with a company that specifically worked on product placement. Their whole thing was the liaison between companies and internet personalities to do product placement. And in fact, they were the ones behind the Baskin Robbins product placement in Ant-Man. And I remember during the interview process, like, Donkey was their white whale. Like, we can't reach Donkey because Donkey will not sell out for anybody. But I guess Raycon gave him a number that he couldn't refuse. To that point, though, being sponsored by stuff that is not relevant to the content, because we talked about how, like, in the base world, like, the overlap between the sponsored stuff and the actual content is huge. It's a very blurred line. It might even just be a circle. Yeah. But I've had several companies that have approached me, like, in email. They're like, hey, we love your channel because we totally watched it, and we think we want to send you a microphone. And I'm like, what am I going to do with a microphone? I have absolutely no use for a microphone, and we want you to promote it to your subscribers. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. They barely care about me. They're not going to care about a microphone in my video. Like, come on.
I did one of those videos, but it's literally my worst performing video.
Which video was that?
I reviewed a Tonor T20 condenser microphone. It's one of they emailed me, they're like, we love your channel. And it's like, I don't do microphone reviews, but I'm like, I just wanted to fuck with them because, like, I knew they didn't know anything about my channel. So it has 452 views.
That would explain why I
over a year ago.
Holy crap!
First off, the thumbnail was just like two microphones in my face. Because I'm comparing it to like another mic of like microphone in the video. It's a stupid video. It's so dumb. And they gave me this whole thing. They're like, you need to copy and paste this and put it in the description, and we'll tell you this and that. But there's only a small portion that they wanted me to copy, but I just copied the whole thing and put it in the description. And then they emailed me. They're like, can you edit the description and take this out? I'm like, no.
See that's way more fun than doing actual product placement.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like I didn't need the mic, and like I didn't even use my camera. I just used my webcam. It's like
Oh.
I just don't even care about this. And like, oh, here's the video link. It's
To check that out. That's too funny, dude.
and the title is this mic the something something. Let's.
Oh boy. Who do they think we are? Who's that poor marketing intern that's just shotgun blasting all of these product review offers all over the place? You kind of have to wonder how they find you sometimes, right? Because they obviously like don't watch this stuff.
I got some jewelry ones. I got jewelry ones from Instagram where they're like, "We love we love your channel. We want you to try wear some of our jewelry." I guess because
Oh, because you have your one thumb ring.
I guess.
I get a lot of offers for dog stuff. And it's like, I guess I do a Taco Tuesday thing once a week, so then I'm not overloading people with pictures of my dog. But like, that's just because he's cute and for no other reason.
He is cute. Oh man.
Well, bring it back around. It's important to be aware that almost everything that you watch on YouTube, even if it's disclosed or not, is probably an ad to some degree.
Yes.
It's kind of sad but that's just how the internet pays for itself, is ads.
Pretty much. And the yeah, everything is essentially an ad now. Like I guess like if because you like something and then you want to tell people about it, that's an ad.
Mhm. People people have gotten after me for the Zoom thing in my videos.
Really?
They're like, oh, this dude's such a Zoom shill. He just wants you to buy the Zoom pedal. It's like especially bad when I started putting those videos on the base channel. Because like for me, like literally the only thing was like, hey, I'd like for more people to see these videos. Here's my opportunity. Cool. And maybe like some of that will leak over into my personal channel because like I would love for more people to see what I'm doing because I think it's interesting. But like even the affiliate links in those videos, they don't do anything for me. Because like they have a relationship with Zounds, and I've tried to email that guy. I don't get his reply emails. Like they just do not come back to me. And I've tried like different email addresses, and like I literally can't communicate with them. So even the affiliate links on those videos that like for the Zoom, like go buy it on Zounds stuff. Nope, not connected to me at all. I don't get anything from that. I don't get any of the ad revenue that might generate from those videos. I get absolutely nothing from it. And like I bought that pedal with my own money. Like Zoom has no idea that I even exist as far as I know, even though I have like the one guy on YouTube making videos with that pedal still.
I think I have that pedal.
Do you really? Hey!
I have never used it.
Not even plugged it in?
I have never plugged it in. It's been sitting on top of the speaker here since I bought it.
What did you buy it for then?
I don't know. I barely remember buying it.
I mean, it's $100. Why not?
Thanks for having me, man. And this was cool to really discuss this in depth because this is a thing that impacts a lot of the music communities, and the bass community is no different.
Mm-hmm. It's something that doesn't get as transparently disclosed as it probably should, and so the impetus kind of falls to the viewer to just be aware that if you see a product on screen, it's probably sponsored in one capacity or another.
Some way, shape, or form.